this is probably something where my mother would be, child protective services would be at the house now. But I used to say to my mom a lot during a period of time of a couple of years where I was like, oh, I don't feel good. And I'd lay on the couch and I was really sick. And the only thing I had the strength to do was watch TV all afternoon and all morning. The Dinah Shore show, I mean, you name it. And I would watch game shows. I was a game show and loved all those old Broadway hands that would come on, Brett Summer and all those people, and Robert Q. Lewis, and people who nobody knows of now, but they were like big New York Broadway people and talented in musical theater and comedy who'd be on those shows. And I just devoured What's My Line, To Tell the Truth, and Match Game.
Do you ever have a full circle moment on the set where you think, I can't believe the way life comes back to me this way?
Well, I know that when they first came to me to do this, the idea was to do, as I've done with a variety of things, I did credit card commercials, I did stuff for Amazon, to get money to put into my foundation for my charity. And when they came to me the first year and said, we're going to do this summer package, I said, great, I'll give that to the charity. Those sources of funding for the charity are always on my mind. And then we did it the first year, and they said, the numbers weren't that bad. Would you like to do some more? And my wife was like, of course you'll do some more. And so we did a bunch of them. And I want to say that truly, I am so happy to come here and do this. These are the loveliest people, Fremantle, ABC, that handles this part of ABC. We have a ball, we have fun. And, I say to them all the time, let's do it year round. Let's do one night a week. Let's do 40 episodes a year, which they think wouldn't work. Maybe there wasn't an audience for that all the time, but I have the best time doing the show. I love it.
How come? What's fun about it?
Well, first of all, it moves like TV moves. Movies are very slow and can be very, very deliberative, and there's obviously a benefit to that. It's designed that way. And TV, we have a schedule we got to shoot, and they got to get this thing on the air by a certain date. So TV has a velocity to it that I sometimes really, really like that. And then we bring on these people some of them are my dear friends, and some of them are people who I've admired, and some of them I've never met before, but I know who they are. And they're just, they're in the mood to hit the ball back. It's silly. This is not the United Nations here, but what we do here is something light, and I get such a great response from people in the public who, when they're in the mood for the kind of snack food of TV, because a lot of TV that I watch, and I do watch some, not a lot, and a lot of it that I watch is brilliant and incredibly well written and produced, but it's dark, it's tough. I don't want to name shows because it'll sound like I'm being critical, but there's one or two shows that I devoured. And I'd watch these shows and I was like, oh God, I need to have a martini or something. I'm so depressed because they're really tough shows, and even thought-provoking. And for this, we want to do a show where people just have a good time.
Yeah, Ozark's like that for me. So,
I'll let you say.
I'll
let you say that, Sandy Kenyon.
I'm just saying.
No,
I'm
please.
just saying, and I have this is the kind of show I watch after covering TV all day. When I just need it before bed, right? I go to bed very early. Hilaria's coming on. Any trepidation about working with your wife?
No. My wife is my best friend, and I'm hopelessly in love with my wife, and her coming can only be a positive. And I just hope that the writers don't decide to do what people always do when my wife was on board for something, which is they give her the best lines that are at my expense. We did a roast for Spike, and my wife, you could tell she was loving every minute of it, letting the air out of me. So I'm sure we'll see some of that.
But you are such a good straight man, I gotta tell you. 15 years ago when I'm a little older than you, but I was in this business when I got into it. Doing game shows was like the end, but not anymore, right? Yeah, Elizabeth Banks, who's an industry, is doing it. What changed?
I think that the audience has changed, as well as the technology. But I always knew TV changed. Not when Nicole Kidman signed on to do a show for HBO, when she signed on to do a second season. When Meryl Streep went over, you realize now that the scripts, the paychecks, everything that we know about the chasm between film and TV has changed. In the movie business now, they're more risk averse than ever. They don't want to pay anybody any money, and unless you're going to be wearing a Marvel costume or whatever. And I think that more and more people have been enticed especially with cable TV, to come over there and do more thoughtful material and take on things that are worthy of very talented film actors, like that Big Little Lies, is the name, right? Mm-hmm. They look at the stars of that show. That's enough people for like 10 movies, you know. And with this show, Elizabeth Banks and McHale and other people that are doing game shows, what it is something that the schedule also works. I got 4 kids, so people will come to me, not all the time, but they come to me with some regularity and say, we have a great dramatic role for you, and we want you to go to Vancouver for 5 months. And I ain't going to Vancouver for 5 months because I got 4 little kids. So finding things that work in your schedule as parents. You know, I always think to myself, Gary Sinise was one of the greatest movie actors of all time. I mean, he was a great movie actor. When he goes and does his drama for CBS, I thought to myself, he's got kids in school. You know, he wants to stay home and get a paycheck and be around. You want to be with your family.
I read some very interesting remarks about weekends this fall and how you want to have those weekends with the kids. Now, I know one of the weird things about social media is comments you made just exploded the last few days. It turns out the interview was done back in April. Right. So I want to ask you, you said, I can't imagine I would do Donald Trump again. I just can't.
Yeah, I think that the truth is, of course, because Lorne is my dear friend, and Lorne is responsible for some of the most important platforms of my career. You know, convincing me to do 30 Rock, which I didn't want to do a regular TV show, which turned out to be the best job I've ever had in my life, other than Match Game. I'm getting better at this, Sandy Kenyon. But all doing SNL and doing the Trump thing, I do get frustrated because I do feel like there's such a weird membrane between the comedy that's at Trump's expense and Trump, and whether, and all I have is this tired phrase, which I hate, but the moving the needle, you know what I mean? Like, where is it getting us in terms of a discovery of, you know, what's really best for the country? I'm an American who has a very simple political credo, and that is, I want everybody to do well. I don't want to just do well. I'm doing great. I got jobs, I'm making money, I got my wife, I got my kids. I don't like to see other people struggling and suffering. So all of the political positions I have, I think typically have to do with making other people's lives better. Now, when I do the Trump thing, I don't know if that energy is contributing to that, but of course, if Lorne asks me to do the show again, if they want me to do it again, maybe he'll want someone to come who can do it more. You know, how much I can do it is an issue because of my schedule.
But if they ask you, if he asks you.
If Lorne asks me to do it again, I can't see where I wouldn't do it. But when I say I'm done, I mean in my heart, because I feel like now I want to put my energy into other things. I think to myself, should I go and put my energy into voter registration? Should I go and work with MoveOn.org and be spending my weekends doing that? Because to do the show is a blast. They're like family to me. But you wind up going to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, and Sunday rolls around. My kids are up at 5:30. I don't know how well you do on 2.5 hours sleep, but I'm not at my best. So I think, but if he asked me to do it, of course I would, but I do feel like sometimes I just get sick of it because I think, what else can I be doing that is imbued with the same intention about illuminating what's going on in our country?
Final question. I sense a greater serenity in you. And I did at the carpet, and I do here. You're a high energy guy with a lot going on. But when I look at you compared to 5 or 6 years ago, I sense a greater...
How would you describe me 5 or 6 years ago, Sandy?
Well, there was somebody, you were saying that...
Because I've seen sometimes you really let me have it, Sandy. You have let me have it. We can bring the clips on, too. We have clips. We have clips of Sandy Kenyon really giving it to me.
We do. And it's hard for me to reconcile the person I chased down the street one day and the person sitting in front of me now. It seems like, for want of a better word, there's a greater serenity there. Right. Am I right or wrong?
I think what I am is I care less about things that aren't important. In this business, you can make a lot of mistakes where you invest a lot of energy and care about a lot of things that just really aren't that important. You know, if I wanted to do my career differently and have a more, what the media, quite frankly, with apologies to you, what the media senses is the career all actors want. There's a career I might have had that involved choices that I wasn't willing to make. And now I've made peace with that fact. There's things I'm not going to do. There's things that I made a choice to marry my wife who wanted to have a lot of kids, and we decided to do that. It's the best thing I've ever done. Has it limited work? Whenever I wanted to have, not a palate cleanser, but whenever I wanted to have the kind of B12 injection of drama by doing a play, I'd run to the theater every 2 or 3 years and do a play. I did a lot of plays before a certain year, and now the idea of going to work at 6 o'clock every night, not putting my kids to bed and not having dinner with my family and going to the theater, that becomes, not that I wouldn't do it, but it becomes tougher. So managing those changes, I went through a period where those changes were very, very difficult for me in terms of I was fixated on goals I had, and now I'm not fixated on those goals anymore. Whatever happens, happens, and I'm totally cool. If I do a game show, if I do a drama, if I do a sitcom, if I do a movie, I don't really care anymore so long as my family's happy.